That was a tough watch. That was a really, really tough watch. And not because I can't accept defeat. It's just the manner in which we were defeated. Chelsea battered at the bridge at the hands of Arsenal. Let's get into it.
And blue is the colour. Essien! Drogba! Lampard! That could be the championship!
Greetings! Welcome back to Couch Critic with me, Dennis P, for what is your Chelsea match review, but more specifically a tactical synopsis of Chelsea's performance against Arsenal at Stamford Bridge. But before we get into all that, please do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification button to keep up with the latest and the newest. And as always, I do have a sponsor for the show. They go by the name of Major League Socks. And fellas, if you ever want to walk in the footsteps of greatness, you know what to do. Hit them up. The link will be in the description. Okay, I must say, I went into the Arsenal game thinking this was a draw at best. I just didn't think that we have the weaponry to match what they're doing currently. But with that said, I still expect to see Chelsea perform at a level, a compete level in a derby that is respectable. And, I just didn't see that today. I did not see that in any way, shape, or form. Maybe it's down to fatigue. Maybe it's down to match jadedness. Maybe it's down to the fact that people are seeing guys drop like flies right ahead of that World Cup, and they're trying to be cautious about, their involvement in that particular tournament. But for whatever the reason was, we did not see a Chelsea team come out and play at a high enough level to compete with this Arsenal team, and it is frustrating, and there are mitigating reasons behind it, and we're going to get into that today. Now, excluding the really poor individual performances that we saw yesterday versus Arsenal, I'm just going to negate all of that. I'm not going to look at that. I'm going to look at specifically the structure that was in place and, the overall quality that Chelsea possessed right now, and whether or not that was a mitigating factor to see them, get battered by, in a derby game, at Stamford Bridge. It's really, really telling. And one of the things that I noticed right from the jump, right from the first opening minutes of the game, is that, again, Chelsea were not able to match the pace, the tempo of the game, the rhythm of the game, could not establish it. And I think that has a lot to do with the types of players that we have on the pitch right now. We didn't have anyone that could move the ball quickly enough out from the back when we went long. We didn't have anyone that had the aerial presence to knock it down. And even if we did, the problem was we didn't have anyone running onto it to get to it. Arsenal were first to every second ball. They were first to everything. They outcompeted us all over the pitch, mainly because they have better athletes in their side right now. We just don't have the athleticism in our side to compete with the likes of an Arsenal who, possess athletes everywhere. In a game where you lack Reece James and you lack Conte, you lack Fofana, who are natural athletes, Chilwell to an extent, you expect Chelsea to play a little bit deeper as they did essentially and be a little bit more solid, be tough to beat, because you're not going to be able to play an up and down game against this Arsenal team when you are, basically half of your squad is out with injuries. So I would have preferred to see Chelsea play a little bit more solid, a little bit more compact. Whether or not they had the capability of doing that with the injuries, obviously Koulibaly again not fit, Kovacic again not fit. So perhaps what Graham Potter said was, I'm just going to use the strengths of the squad right now, and I'm going to try and find a system that works best for them. But in the end, it just did not work. We were way too open. We were easily played through. Like you saw Arsenal, even again with the pace, there are 1-2 touch passes all over the pitch and finding guys in space every single time. We just could not, we're chasing shadows for the most parts of the game, and we just could not, get into the match. We could not get ourselves into the match. We could not, assemble any sort of rhythm in our attack, get into the final third and, pop it around a little bit more. Most of the possession that Chelsea were able to have in that match came from recycling it in and amongst our defenders and our midfielders, which we've seen time and time again. Where we need to be more effective is recycling possession in that final third, where we can actually affect teams, hurt teams, and manipulate the ball to pull defenders out of shape so we can get in behind. And we just don't do that enough. We can talk about the pace of the game being a factor, but the other thing that I find is glaringly obvious right now is that Chelsea have no link-up play. There's absolutely nobody linking defense to midfield to attack. We have nobody missing all those pieces together right now. I mean, if you watch the game, you would notice that when we played out from the back, Arsenal were very much pressed up high up the pitch and took Jorginho out of the game, the guy that you want to get on the ball in those situations. And when you saw Ruben Loftus-Cheek on the ball, he was abysmal building from the back, giving it away, trying to dribble out of trouble when he's, the last line before our defenders. And it just led to so many problems trying to build out from the back when you have Jorginho marked out of the game, not effectively moving into areas where he can get on the ball. And then you also have, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who was hiding for a lot of that game. I didn't feel like he had any influence whatsoever. But between the two of them, that wasn't where most of the problems lied. I thought Jorginho had a great game, to be honest, as well. I thought he was all over the pitch and really, really busy. But defensively. But, the other problems were just, what are we getting going forward? How are we building attacks? Who's coming deep to help us build? Mason Mount came deep a few times and got on the ball. You saw Raheem Sterling come deep and get on the ball. And whenever they did that, there was nothing going forward, It's like we have our wingers coming in to build our attack, and then we have nothing up top. And of course, the problems don't end there. I really do feel like Chelsea have an issue in creation and ideation. You guys heard me bang on about this for weeks now. It's not just the fact that we have a striker who's, more of a poacher, a guy that isn't busy off the ball. It's the fact that we don't have a midfield or attacking midfielders that are adept enough at building attacks, assembling attacks, and playing guys in, recognizing where they want the ball and whatnot. We just don't have a recognized number 10 right now. At best, you could say Kai Havertz is a shadow striker. We saw glimpses of him as a number 10 during Salzburg game, and I thought he was brilliant in that match, just trying to stitch together the moves, keeping things ticking over, 1-2 touch passes. But when we get back into the Premier League, it just seems like the pace that the Premier League's being played at right now is not the pace that we can handle. And it's becoming a big, big problem in our overall gameplay. Teams are just looking at this Chelsea side right now and seeing that we don't possess the speed of thought. If we take Jorginho out of the game, we don't possess the ability to be cohesive, play 1-2 touch passes, get in behind. We just don't do that well enough. Our passing ability when we're under pressure is extremely poor. When we get on the break and your decisions have to be pinpoint and accurate, we're finding that every time we try to play those balls into our strikers or into our attackers, the pass to get them in behind is just wayward every time. We just don't have the accuracy of the pass. We don't have the accuracy and we don't have the pace of thought to get those balls into those areas. And so the problems are tenfold. You're hearing people online right now, Twitter and whatnot, the spaces and whatnot, and you hear people just complaining about specific players, the chemistry of the squad and whether or not there's a synergy. Do we have an assembled synergy right now? Do we have guys that understand what their roles are, and are their roles complementary to the players that we have on the pitch right now? And the answer to all that is no. We do not have a synergy in the squad right now. The things that we needed in the midfield, to make a Jorginho and a Ruben Loftus-Cheek functional are just not there. You need a Conte. You need a guy that is busy in that midfield to, compensate for the gaps of space that are left. You need a guy that can win the ball back, so the synergy's all over the place. And you think about even further up the pitch right now, Mason Mount is not a number 10. I thought, going into this game, I actually thought that Graham Potter would have, just seeing how we played against Salzburg, I thought that was a dress rehearsal for this Arsenal game. And for me, Mason Mount played that 8.5 role. He wasn't playing as a number 10. He wasn't playing as a winger. He was in that midfield 3, and he was kind of the glue guy between our midfield and our attackers. And it worked to perfection. I thought he had a great game. Obviously Kai Havertz in the number 10 role was very, very effective as well. And we just went away from that. I heard people online saying that Chelsea played a 4-3-3. I don't think we did. I thought we played a 4-2-3-1. It looked like Kai was in the number 10. We had the 2 6s in Jorginho and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Mason Mount basically was on the left. And you had Raheem Sterling on the right with Aubameyang through the middle, obviously. And, it played very much like a 4-2-3-1 as well. Maybe not in defensive shape because we tried to get as many people behind the ball as possible. But in terms of how we attacked and how we transitioned, it's very much a 4-2-3-1. And, the problem that I have with that shape, again, is that you need guys on that flank that are pacey and tricky if you're going to be playing that in that transition. And I'm sorry, you just don't have that in Mason Mount. You don't have that in Kai Havertz. So you're left with, one guy just trying to get as far up the pitch as he possibly can and then look for a central ball. And, when your passes aren't accurate and you don't have the pace to beat your man, the trickery to beat your man, you turn the ball over and it's right back down to where it was, for the majority of the game in our end. And it was just a frustrating game overall. I'm not going to deny that. I don't think that we played to our strengths in any way, shape, or form. I just wanted to see more solidity in our midfield. I wanted to see us be a little bit more compact in there. Take away the spaces that were given to Odegaard. Take away the spaces that Xhaka found himself into. Just be in and amongst those guys a little bit more. And we just did not have enough bodies around them in that 4-2-3-1 shape. And as a result, we saw a lot of situations where our defenders were isolated 1v1. We saw Cucurella with Saka. Obviously, he didn't get beat too badly, but he was run ragged the entire game, He was run ragged the entire game. Thought Azpilicueta did a decent job on the right for us. But again, he was overmatched. He was overmatched in that area. Ultimately, I really do think that Chelsea need to be focused more on being more solid and compact if we're not going to be an offensive dynamo. And, that's on Graham Potter. He has to recognize what he has in the squad right now. I understand he hasn't had a transfer window. He hasn't had a lot of time to even work with his team, with matches coming thick and fast every time. Every week we have 2-3 matches. So there is something that I can say, we can't necessarily just depend on him to get it all right from the start. I understand that there's going to be some time and some, an evolution that is going to have to occur before we see his best football. But right now, job one has to be just make Chelsea solid, make us tough to beat. That has to be the mandate right now. Make us tough to beat. If we can't do that and we're just allowing teams to just run through us, what is the point? We're just falling down the table time and time again. This is the fourth match in a row that Chelsea have not come out and played any semblance of football that looked like a team that wants to contend for a top 4 place, contend for titles and whatnot. And that is the most frustrating aspect for me. It's not the fact that we're not playing, we have injuries and whatnot, we're not playing at our most optimum level. It's the fact that we're not playing the brand of football that allows for you to be solid and allows for you to at least move up the table. You have to be tough to beat first. And that's the problem. We're very easy to play through. Teams are finding it very easy to play through us, and that's been a big problem. I'm not one that's going to bang on about Potter. I think that he needs his time. Obviously, he's never handled a squad the size as Chelsea before, a big team, big egos and whatnot. He's never had to, basically deal with 3 matches a week type of things. He's never had to deal with that in his career. So there is a learning curve there that he has to make the right adjustments on the go, and, it's not for everybody, but what I do need to see from him and what I do need for him to improve on is, number one, assessing what the game is asking for and meeting that. He's not done that in the last 4 league games so far. He's kind of just come with his own idea of the game and not given any consideration to the opponents. And that particular setup, that particular way of playing, that style of play, that philosophy is leading to Chelsea being found out very easily and exposing us mightily. We have to disguise what we want to do better. We have to be better at being compact, be better at defending, being stronger, tougher to play through. And then we can start using some of the ideas that he has, playing a little bit more vertical, playing a little bit more direct and whatnot. But before any of that has to happen, before we can do any of that with any sort of success, we have to be more compact. We have to be tougher to play through. And right now I just don't see that. And until we do, it's going to be a long year. And I'm going to end it right there, guys. I don't want to go too hard on this because I don't want to sound like a broken record. You guys know where I stand on this stuff. We need more ideation in the final third. Obviously, that's something that we're going to have to depend on in the transfer window because we just don't have it on offer right now. And to be honest, we're banged up. We are seriously banged up. The only world-class players that we have in this squad right now outside of Thiago Silva are, and he's 38, 39, are N'Golo Kante and Reece James. And without them, as the building blocks to what we want to do, we are a shell of a team, and it showed. Arsenal ran over us at the bridge at that. They ran over us. It's not something that I enjoy saying. It's not something that I enjoy seeing happen, but the fact is that's the truth of it, and I want to see if we can't play at our optimum, the way Graham Potter wants us to play, then we have to be more solid and tough to beat. Like a little bit more compact, very similar to what we saw Thomas Tuchel do when he first came to Chelsea. He made us very, very tough to beat, and then the results started to come afterwards. And I just don't see that with Graham Potter right now. Granted, I'm far from Potter out, but I really do need him to fix up. It's going to be just a long season if we don't recognize where we're deficient and try to mask our deficiencies and exalt our strengths. But until then, you know what to do, guys. Keep the blue flag flying high and up the Chels. Peace.